Council, please come to order. We're going to start the meeting, and let me point out that this... Sergeant, could you get some quiet in the back of the room? Let me point out that this is will be a meeting of the City Council, a special meeting held in Encino in the 11th District, Cindy Misikowski's district. It's a regular meeting, council meeting. There are 15 council districts in the city. The regular meeting days are Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, usually at City Hall. And our regular, let me point out that these meetings are being televised on Channel 35, and we're also being monitored by council phone. Those of you who are here tonight, this is being provided live, and our normal meetings that meet at 10 o'clock in City Hall are provided live, and then they are repeated at 7:30 in the evenings every meeting day, and then on Sunday, all three meetings will be shown. So those of you here tonight, you can see this council meeting on Sunday. I'd like to, first of all, introduce some of the people that are involved in here. Hal Bernson, who is a council member of the 12th District. Laura Chick, council member of the 3rd District. Did you stand up for Laura?
I stood up so they could see me.
Mike Fuhrer, council member of the 5th District. Mike Hernandez, council district of the 1st District. Rita Walters, council member of the 9th District. And next to me is Cindy Misikowski, and I'm John Ferraro. That's okay. Was that for me or for Cindy? But I'm Councilman John Ferraro, the 4th District, that represents part of the valley. We do have, next to me is Diane Titus, who is our minute clerk, who really runs the meetings. Next to her is Judy Clark. Mike Carey, our city clerk, is standing over there, and Helen Ginsberg also with the city clerk, and Pat Healy with the city. You didn't put Pat's name here. Ron Deaton, our chief legislative analyst, is next to Mike Carey, and Darrell Powell, who is servicing the council on resolutions and matters, is wandering around somewhere. We also have our city...
Sitting right there, Darrell.
Oh, there he is. Our city attorney, Gail Weingart, is next to Cindy. We have 3 Sergeant of Arms, Ron Curry, Herman Landry, Eddie Banks. They are here to protect me from the council members. I'd also like to introduce Keith Comrie, our city administrative officer. And I'd also like to introduce somebody that served the city many years as a law enforcement officer. He was a deputy chief in the police department, then became chief of the highway patrol. Harold Sullivan, a good friend of many years. Harold, good to have you here. Mark Ridley Thomas is not sitting in the seat yet, but we'll get him there. He's a councilman of the 8th District. And just let me point out that there are... And Ruth Galander, the 6th District, just arrived. Let me point out that the agenda, tonight's agenda is in the back, and it gives the basic council rules, and you might be helpful to follow tonight's proceedings. The council members will consider the items on the agenda in order. Some of the items will be approved without discussion. However, if there are an item called special by council members, that will be held on the desk until we go through the agenda. Members of the public who wish to speak on any items that are requested should complete a speaker's card, and the speaker's cards are scattered around, and hand them to the Sergeant of Arms, and he'll... Are you lobbying me, Hal? We also will have a public comment period, which you can speak on any matters that deals with the council's jurisdiction. When the debates of the items are completed, the chair will instruct the clerk to take an oral roll call. If a member is silent, that is considered an aye vote. If they say no, of course, it is a no vote. For tonight's meeting, council members requesting to address the council will raise their hand, and I'll try to recognize them in the order that they raise their hand. They are allowed 3 minutes to speak, and then the next person will be able to speak. So we'll first start out by everyone standing, and we'll pledge allegiance to our flag, and I'll ask Council Member Cindy Misakowski to lead us in the pledge, and then I'll ask her to say a few words.
Everyone, put your hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let me thank Cindy for arranging this meeting, and I'll ask her now to make some remarks.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm very pleased to welcome the council here tonight and all the incredibly distinguished people who are in the audience. We have a number of people who represent a number of organizations in the Valley, not only in the 11th District, but through the Mid-Valley and out through Woodland Hills. And so I'm pleased to see everyone here. And I think one of the tremendous benefits, actually, of having these council meetings out in the community, and particularly in the evening, is the council gets to experience a lot of the situations that the citizens who live in various areas experience. And in particular, I think the council has just experienced something we've had a lot of notoriety about, and that's the interchange of the 405 and the 101 freeway. So perhaps when that motion is brought back in by Councilman Alarcon and myself, we'll get some very swift action. There are some people I'd really like to thank as well tonight who helped with this. First, at the Encino Community Center, this is a city facility, and we have Lee Marks and Cindy Bertamati, who are here. I don't know if they're there or still over in the other chamber office, so I appreciate their being here. Obviously, Helen Ginsberg and her staff in the city clerk's office did a good job of getting this all set up. And for those of you who were here earlier and were able to walk next door to the Encino Chamber of Commerce, the Encino Chamber of Commerce helped host the incredible food and meal and reception that was done before we started. So I really would like to thank very much the Chamber, and that's David Lynn, who's the Executive Director, and his staff, Judy Block and Stephanie Levitt. Thank you. And particular thanks to Shell Mendy, who is the president of the Encino Chamber and the entire board. And for those of you who don't know, I think the council might find this interesting. We talk an awful lot about public-private partnership, and this building that we're in is exactly that. It was a building originally built by a nonprofit center called the Encino Community Center, and they built it, they raised funds for it. The chamber was very active in raising the funds, and in the 1970s, the building fell into disrepair, needed a lot of work, needed about $100,000, and the community, the nonprofit group, said, well, let's see if we can interest the city in buying it. And the city, in buying it, if we turn it over to them, would agree to put money in, to continue to operate it as a community center, and continue to lease long-term the office next door to the Encino Chamber of Commerce. So what you have here is something that did occur in 1970. The city took it over, put some money in. The chamber continues to be there, and the chamber is putting money in. In fact, the reception tonight was held in a new office that the chamber built on this city building. So public-private partnerships work very well in the city, and I'm glad that we're all here tonight to have a sense of feeling that. I'd also like to thank my staff. I think there are a number of them here, but in particular the Valley staff who helped organize this, get out a lot of the notices. That's Rosalind Stewart, Roni Blau, Sandy Block, Cheryl Fallon, and Kathy Lundbeck. And for the rest of my staff, just raise your hands in the back. Thank you. Okay, in the front too. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. We're going to start, usually the public comment period is at the close of the meetings, and tonight we're at this special meeting. We will start with the public comment at this time, and I will call on Gerald Silvers first, and then John Rogers would be
Mr. Ellicott.
Take the microphone there, Mr. Silvers.
Yes, thank you. I'm Gerald Silver, President of Homeowners of Encino. Good evening. There are two items that need to be addressed tonight. One of them I'm going to speak just briefly on, the problem at Van Nuys Airport. I'll wait till I have everyone's attention and the room's quiet. The second has to do with a Valley Vote position. So if Don Schultz and Richard Lehner come up, then they can address that. Let me say, tonight it's quite quiet outside because the airplanes are arriving to the north and taking off to the north, so you don't have that horrendous noise. Let me tell you, we have a severe, serious noise problem from Van Nuys Airport. And ultimately, the responsibility is going to rest with you in terms of Prop 5, in terms of what Department of Airport has not done. We must have a phase-out of the noisy Stage 2 jets. I'd like to ask, those people in the audience, how many of you that live in this area find Van Nuys Airport noise objectionable? I'd like to see a show of hands. All right, thank you. You can see that and this room has people from all over the city. So we ask you, please, to move promptly and aggressively to insist that Department of Airports phase out the noisy Stage 2 jets, put in an effective non-addition rule so there will not be more noisy jets coming in, and finally, deal with this horrendous noise problem. I was awoken this morning at 5:26 a.m. by these helicopters. That's right, Ms. Dom. 5:26. And then thereafter. So this is a severe problem that has to be dealt with. Finally, let me say, standing behind me is Richard Lehner and Don Schultz. And I'll take a moment and then they may want to speak to this. The Board of Supervisors recently passed, in the last day or so, passed a motion that supported AB 62, but more importantly, asked that the issue of Valley secession be brought to the vote of the public. And we're asking you to take a similar action. So with that, let me ask Richard or Don, do you want to fill us in on that, please?
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I think our time is up, so we'll just step down.
No, go ahead.
Thank you, John. In addition to what Jerry said, Mr. Lehner and I would really
Identify
like...
yourself, Don, to the public.
My name is Don Schultz, President of Van Nuys Homeowners Association, and also a director with Valley Vote. Council members, we're asking for your support to take the same position that the Board of Supervisors took yesterday, an official position with a 5-0 unanimous vote to change the period of time that is currently law of 90 days for the gathering of the petitions to submit to LAFCO for signatures, gathering signatures for the petition to LAFCO. Currently, as you know, the rest of the state of California has 180 days to submit these signatures. So we're asking that you take the same position as the Board of Supervisors took yesterday, and of course we want you to do it with your own wording. Thank you very much.
I just want to echo Don's
Your name,
remarks.
please.
My name is Richard Lehner, Encino Chamber of Commerce, United Chamber of Commerce, and Valley Vote. I would just like to echo the remarks of Don and request that you also give us the opportunity to have 180 days to gather the petitions. It would only equate that in which the rest of the state is granted. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, John Rogers wants to be heard, and then Robert Rodine.
This is somebody. Good evening, Mr. President. My name is John Rogers. I live in Alameda, California. I am the legislative chairman for the aircraft pilots of the Bay Area. I'm the person who wrote a letter on September 19th to Susan Curlin challenging the legality of your entire noise ordinance going all the way back to 1981. Simply because you made agreements with the federal government to allow the right of access to the Van Nuys Airport to any aircraft that is legal to fly under federal law. You have no grandfathering rights. Now, with regard to the noise issue, you've got a lot of hands up here, and I picked up this flyer that I presume was, I don't know who handed out in big noise complaint file. I would like to print up 1,000 of these and come out here on a Sunday and find all the open houses and pass these out to everybody who's going to go in and look at an open house. And I hope that you people who raised your hand and said that you can't live around the Van Nuys Airport because it's our fault, will think about that when it comes time to sell your house. And I hope you fill out lots of noise complaints, and I'm going to refer them to Councilwoman Miskowski's office, because she's supported Mr. Silver and all of you in your efforts to say how bad it is to live out here. And new buyers, it's only fair that people who are buying property understand that. We don't need to have them coming down to the Van Nuys Airport Citizens Advisory Council 6 months after the fact and acting like Mr. Silver and everybody has acted all these years. And I can't buy the fact that a housing project is going on Nordhoff Street, about 1.4 miles from the airport, where approaching aircraft are going to be less than 500 feet over the project, and the noise issue has been put on hold by the proponent so for the convenience of the product, and he says there's no noise issue over there. So we have some things to resolve. But along with that, what you're really asking us to do, or demanding that we do through a noise ordinance and fines and threats and intimidations and so on and so forth, is to solve these people's problem by shifting it off to somebody else. Now, could you imagine if I was at another airport and they tried the same thing, we shifted everything over to you? I would be on these people's side. I wouldn't go for that at all. Now, my challenge to you is to make up a proactive disclosure program with the Board of Realtors so that people understand what they're buying, because we don't need to have, I'm sure there's going to be some sellers that might not like to see this, buyers coming in and asking them about the airport, because they might not buy the house and the property value goes down because they can't sell it, okay? But I also want to challenge you, if you think we should go fly someplace else, you identify the airport and you take Mr. Silver and his constituents and all these people who raise your hand, and I'll guarantee you there's people around those other airports that are just like these people, and ask them if they're willing to receive transferred noise on the basis that it's reasonable here, and see how far you get.
We have other people who want to be heard, and we appreciate you coming down from Alameda to speak.
My challenge to you is to put it on the agenda to abolish that noise.
Just make your statement.
Is to abolish that noise ordinance.
Thank you.
Because it's in violation of the fraud law.
Then Harriet Bilford would be next.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Robert Rodin. I'm a member of the board of the Mid-Valley Chamber of Commerce, and I chair the Airport Committee for the Mid-Valley Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber is opposed to the Van Nuys Airport Stage 2 non-addition and visitation limit ordinance that is supported by some of the council members. If that ordinance, as is currently proposed, is adopted during 1998, it will cost 350 to 400 jobs, not just at the airport, but throughout the entire valley, and will have an adverse economic impact of $85 to $100 million. That is a one-year economic impact. In 1999, there will be an additional loss of 350 to 400 more jobs. That's a total of 700 to 800 jobs cumulatively, and another $85 to $100 million of economic activity lost. And that will continue until there will have been wiped out 1,750 to 2,000 jobs when all the Stage 2 aircraft are gone, and the economic impact will have been $425 to $500 million. There will each year be an opportunity cost of approximately $100 million a year for perhaps 10 to 15 years. And for those of you on the council who represent areas outside the San Fernando Valley, don't think that your physical remoteness will protect you. A respected economist who wrote a study for the Department of Airports, Wilbur Smith and Associates, indicated that 60% of the jobs that result as a result of the business activity of Van Nuys Airport are held by Valley residents. but the other 40% of those jobs come from your districts outside the San Fernando Valley. And therefore, you are at risk as well. We hope that you won't inflict this ordinance on 1.3 million Valley residents to accommodate 13 residents who account for 85% of all the noise complaints in the San Fernando Valley, at Van Nuys Airport, that is. Now, let me carry this one step further for you. You folks are the ones who are fiscally responsible for the City of Los Angeles. The adoption of this ordinance will, in a given year, result in the loss of tax revenues to the City of Los Angeles of approximately $2 million. And I don't know what budget that comes from or how you intend to offset it if you adopt this ordinance, but I really don't think that at this point in time the City of Los Angeles can afford that kind of an economic hit. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here.
Harriet Bilford, and then Laura Pate.
Good evening. My name is Harriet Bilford, and I've lived in Los Angeles almost my whole life, and I've practiced law with my husband in the San Fernando Valley for the last 18 years. I appreciate you having this meeting held here today. During the last 4 years, I've appeared at City Council several times concerning the city's nuisance revocation proceedings, and I've since become a regular viewer of the hearings on Channel 35. Several articles I've written have been published in the paper about my observations. I'm somewhat embarrassed because up until 4 years ago, I had very little knowledge about politics or our local government, but that changed in 1994 when Van Nuys police captain, who's since been promoted and transferred, and the council person of the district at that time blamed a donut shop for, and I'm quoting from a notice of hearing, for, quote, prostitution, illegal drug activity, lewd conduct, arrests, and the social and physical deterioration of the adjacent community. The thing is that I knew that the owners of that donut shop for the last 10 years, and I also was a customer at that shop, and the allegations and accusations I found to be ludicrous, so I tried to help them, and since then several other small business owners who I feel have been accused for criminal activities that occur in their neighborhood for no fault of their own. But I'm not really here to talk about the nuisance actions. I'm here to talk about my frustration with the city council hearings in downtown. The first time I appeared, I was shocked because I had, by that time, spent nearly hundreds of hours preparing. I had documents this thick, and nobody had read anything, and nobody was listening, and it didn't seem like anybody cared. I found that in the last 4 years, nothing has changed, and that I'm not alone, but in watching these hearings, it seems to occur in every case. I come here and other people come here talking about important issues that impact their lives, and it seems like they're not being given the attention they deserve. It seems like it doesn't matter what we say because the council usually votes in the manner in which the council person of the affected district wants. On a personal level, I've come to know several of the council people, and I respect them. I respect all of you. I just don't know what happens when you get in City Hall in the chambers, and it just seems like things go crazy. I find it very frustrating in that it seems to take years and a tremendous amount of effort and anguish to get anything done, and very little seems to get done. I'd like to close by just quoting from reading the last sentence of a letter that I wrote in response to a Daily News question of what is needed to reform City Hall. And I wrote, what we need is for our politicians to implement basic values: honesty, integrity, open-mindedness, courage, compassion, and just plain simple respect and common courtesy. That's all we want. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a very good formula. Lori Pate, and then Leonard Shapiro.
Hello, I'm Lori Pate, and I'm a member of the Encino Balboa Women's Golf Club, which is known as the Sepulveda Golf Club. And this issue of who is awarded the concession at my golf club affects me personally, and I feel very strongly about the bidding process that is to blame for the problems that we're having here. And I question how many times a bid has to go out and be awarded to one company and be denied the contract. Today, for the third time downtown, a company was recommended by a staff and denied the contract. It baffles my mind that this could go on and that the city could conduct business this way. And I just urge you to please take a strong, close look at this issue and please take charge of it because it affects the golfing public, and I know there's many of us that need your assistance. Thank you.
I think there's a motion that was introduced that will be acted on Tuesday, I believe, on this item that you spoke to, Ms. Pate. Leonard Shapiro and then Rob Gushan.
My name is Leonard Shapiro. I'm a gadfly.
Mark, don't, please.
I'm also a newspaper writer. I'm here to talk today about the condition of the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, to which the city has 4 appointees, including 2 council people. It just recently concluded one of their most horrible campaigns to indicate how they've been operating over the past years. We finally decided that they have a 6-month break. We're not going to build subways anymore. They're going to concentrate on the bus transportation. But that brings up the point of buses. How can people operate the way they did? For example, they just bought 330 methanol buses, methanol-fueled buses. They were told that methanol fuel is a good alternative fuel, better than gasoline, doesn't pollute so much. So in cooperation with the Clean Air Act of this country, they decided we're going to use methanol. Well, they found out later that methanol pollutes just as much with carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxides, and aldehydes. But they didn't bother to look it up. But one thing they did find out, after they got these 330 buses, they were breaking down all the time. And they found on average engines were burning out in 45,000 miles. So some genius told them, take these methanol buses and convert it to ethanol buses, and that'll take care of your troubles. So they converted the entire 330 buses to ethanol. And what happened? The engine started to burn out in 25,000 miles. With methanol, it was at least lasting 45,000 miles. Now they're talking about going back to diesel. But you know what? When they were buying these methanol buses, why didn't somebody tell them there were only 800 methanol-fueled vehicles in the entire world, of which 600 had been purchased by the state of California a year ago on an experimental basis. So in the face of this, they go out and they buy 330 buses, and now they found out millions of dollars later that it's not working. And I say this is one point that we ought to keep in mind when we realize that there's 4 people from the city council and the mayor's office operating this place, 5 people from the board of supervisors, and then 4 people from the various cities. We can't quite be in a position where we allow people like this who don't know what's going on to run a system where they're going to put in billions of dollars worth of subways and continue running a bus system that, in the way that people want them to do this. I say it's time that we understand that we have to get good people elected to do a job. Why don't we get good people elected like you got facing us today? At least they're facing us today.
I think you should go to the MTA board and tell them that story, Mr. Shapiro. We have other people who want to be heard tonight.
That's a very good suggestion, but I'm glad you're facing us this time instead of turning your backs to us like you do every day in City Hall.
Rob Gushan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think some of the people that came out here tonight were here to not just see all of you in action, but to hear Leonard, since you have to hear him 3 times a week. And Leonard always has something intriguing to say. I'm proud to represent this community on the elected City Charter Reform Commission. There are two of my colleagues from other Valley districts here tonight that I would like to introduce. I see Dennis Zine over there from the 3rd Council District, and Marcos Castaneda over here from the 7th Council District. In looking at the charter, and I'd just like to make some brief remarks to you on it, it's interesting. You look at the city charter, there's 157 pages that talks about functions of the city council. There's about 57 pages, roughly, that talk about the functions of the mayor. And there are hundreds of other pages of that document that describe the functions of city departments and other city officers. Nowhere in that constitution of this city does it talk about the community. Nowhere in that document does it provide a framework for the kind of community participation that many of you do have in your districts and that work very well, but which is lacking in terms of true decision-making authority with appropriate checks and balances. And so when I heard someone tell me this morning that in response to you coming out here, that it's pure window dressing, they don't really care, and I felt that I tried to express the view that this is a very historic opportunity for people, not just in Encino, but in the Valley, to come participate and watch all of you hopefully participate in this process. People who don't have the opportunity to do it, travel downtown during the day. And it's also an opportunity to tell you that as communities throughout the city, we want a voice. And I think that the true test of your commitment to the communities in your district and throughout the city will come in the months ahead. The council is looking at neighborhood councils right now, which is encouraging. The appointed commission is, and our commission is. And I hope that in the months ahead, that notwithstanding a lot of the bickering and other personalization of these charter issues, that we can put that aside, because it's not about this council, it's not about this mayor, it's about the future that we will have in this community and our city in the years to come. And I ask that you work together with the people from this community and your communities to provide, as part of the framework of city government, community councils that have true decision-making authority over matters of local concern. Thank you.
Richard Robinson, and then Hank Workman would be next.
Mr. President, members of council, the elected City Charter Reform Commission meets tomorrow night at 6 in the Water and Power Building at 111 North Hope Street. Thank you.
Hank Workman, and then Jeff Bloom.
My name is Hank Workman, and I've lived in North Hills for 38 years, and I'm retired. And I'd like to read a statement. I agree with Mr. Silver here that secession is the only way for the Valley to get representation. As a case in point, I am one of 680 petitioners against the construction of 30 condominiums in Nakata Nursery at the corner of Nordhoff Street and Havenhurst, with Mr. Ted Stein, who ran for city attorney and failed, being the buyer. We received notice of this project on January 7, 1998, with only 28 days to file opposing views, yet the City Council approved on November 25, 1997, at the request of Councilman Hal Burnson and Councilwoman Laura Chick, quote, a deviation from the adopted periodic review schedule is appropriate because the plan amendment is needed to avoid financial loss or extreme hardship. The true financial loss will be the surrounding property owners, who will see the value of their properties plummet if this project is allowed to go ahead. The hearing by the advisory agency was scheduled in downtown Los Angeles, thereby precluding most all of the 600 petitioners from attending. According to Councilman Hal Bernson's office, this was done at the convenience of the advisory board. The representation we get in the Valley is of the government, by the government, and for the government. Thank you.
Jeff Bloom.
Mr. President, members of the City Council, my name is Jeff Blum, and I am a director with the Santa Monica Mountains Fund, which works with the national and state parks in the Santa Monica Mountains. And I came here tonight to just inform you and officially about an event that we're putting on April 19th of this year called Hands Across the Parklands, where we're going to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area. The recreation area, as you know, runs from the Hollywood Freeway to Point Mugu, and what we're planning on doing is linking a human chain in celebration across the backbone of the Santa Monica Mountains, actually along Mulholland. And I just wanted to, like I said, officially invite you all to celebrate with us this anniversary and also the entire city of Los Angeles. So thank you.
Thank you. That's all the cards we have, so the public comment period will be closed. Will you call the roll?
Alacon, Burnson, Chick, Fuhrer, Galanter, Hernandez, Sikowski, Ridley Thomas, Walters, Ferraro. 10 council members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Okay, the first order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Ms. Sikowski moves, Mrs. Walters seconds. If there's no objections, unanimous vote. The next item,
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
if there's no objections, unanimous vote. Next item.
Items 1 through 9 are items of which public hearings have been held.
We do have a couple people that want to be heard on 9. Normally, we would not open that hearing up, but inasmuch as we're in their territory, why don't we call that special and we'll have a hearing on that. Is there any objection to that? Okay. Number 5 is called special. Number 9 is called special. Any other specials? If not, prepare the roll on 1 through 9, with the exception of 5 and 9.
Alacon, Burnson, Chick, Fuhrer, Galanter, Hernandez, Miskowski, Ridley Thomas, Walters, Ferraro.
10 ayes.
Those are approved. The ordinance on item number 1 will go over 1 week. Ordinances have to be approved unanimously with at least 12 members present on the first reading. If they fail, that fails, then it goes over 1 week. And the next meeting, next Wednesday, it'll only need 8 votes. So then we'll move ahead to the next items.
Items for which public hearings have not been held are 10 through 13.
We have cards on 13, but we also have a request to continue that until Friday.
13A, yes.
13A, I'm sorry. 13A. We don't have cards on 13A. It's on 13C.
And I'd like to call 13D and 13E special.
13E also. Okay.
13D.
D, E, and C. Okay. If there's no objection, 13A will be continued until Friday. Hearing none, that'll be the order. And we have 10, 11, and 12 before us. Any specials there? If not, prepare the
Mr. President,
roll.
I need a motion from the floor to adopt the recommendations of the Los Angeles Housing Department on item 10.
All right, Mr. Hernandez moves. Prepare the roll. Tabulate the vote.
Oh, she's at the door.
Call roll.
Alacon, Burnson, Chick, Fuhrer, Galanter, Hernandez, Miskowski, Ridley Thomas, Walters, Ferraro.
10 ayes.
Those are approved. Okay, the next item.
The item's called special, item 5.
Mrs. Walters, you call 5 special? Yes.
Mr. President, I did call item 5 special, and I would ask the council members to look at page 2 of the report, paragraph 3 on that page. This came to committee, and I refused to vote for it because it had a bill attached to this for $3,262.24. That was a bill for 8 trips to City Hall from Orange County. I felt they were billing at a rate of $45 per hour and showed 8 hours for each trip. I think this is exorbitant, and I don't think the city ought to pay it. The CRA administration has indicated it should be paid, and to me, they have made it worse. They approved a cost adjustment for 6 of the 8 trips, but it's still $3,262.24, and I think this ought to be a disallowed cost. It comes to the council without recommendation from the committee.
Mr. Hernandez?
You know, I tend to agree with Ms. Walters, but there are a few other things I want to point out, and, you know, I think a lot of times when the public criticizes government, they have the right to do that. The reality is, this project was approved by council, I think it was November of '96, and for those 8 trips, it took a year for the contractor to get the permits for a project that was for the city in the first place. And so if we're to question, you know, the wasting of time, imagine the public trying to take out a permit to do work on your house, and it takes you a year to do that, and you have to make 8 trips, and each trip spend 8 hours at City Hall. So I'm not sure we have to blame the contractor for this, but rather we should be looking at how the city functions. And why is it that it takes 8 trips to take out permits, to do plumbing work, to do re-roofing, to create a handicap ramp? Now, and it took a year just to get the permits to do the work, and I think that's where the criticism should be looked at. But the bottom line is now it's before us, and I think we have a bill that has to be paid, and I just recommend that we pay it before the bill goes up.
Mrs. Walters?
It's my understanding that these trips were required because the contractor did not conform with the building codes of the city. And he billed at $45 an hour, which was the top pay. And it seems to me that for somebody going to stand in line, you don't send a $45 an hour person to drive from Orange County to stand in line to get something corrected that you should have done right in the first place.
Talk to that point, because my understanding was there was disagreement in terms of the issuing of the permits and the work that had to be done by the contractor.
Maybe Mr. Malloy can shed some light on this. Mr. Malloy is the Executive Director of the Community Redevelopment Agency.
Mr. President, members of the council, I'm John Malloy with the Redevelopment Agency. The contractor in question was the low bidder on this project. His bid was $12,000 below the next low bidder. There were several change orders that we did negotiate during the course of the project, and also the hourly rate that was billed was the hourly rate which was agreed upon with the contractor in the initial contract. We've checked with the Public Works Department, and this hourly rate is pretty much a standard for contracts of this nature. We have attempted to negotiate in good faith with the contractor the best we can to get the price down, and this is the negotiated price that we are recommending.
Could you address the reason why it took 8 trips?
There were several significant problems with the permit processing, particularly with respect to getting the necessary sewer and water permits. We have checked the repeat visits to the building permit section. As with all of these kinds of issues, there are typically blame flowing in either direction with respect to arguing with the people at the front counter in the permit office. But on balance, we think that the trips were necessary and that the contract price is a fair price.
You know, and I don't know if there's anybody out there in the public who serves as a contractor, but if you've had the same kind of experience, please raise your hand. But I think it's a common experience dealing with the building and safety department sometimes.
Okay, we have item number 5 before us. Call the roll.
Alacon, Burnson, Chick, Fuhrer, Galanter, Hernandez, Miskowski, Ridley Thomas, Walters. and Ferraro.
Did she say no? 10 ayes.
No.
9 aye, 1 no.
All right, that is approved. Next item.
9 called special.
We have James Stewart and Don Schultz.
Yes, my name is James Stewart. I'm the member of the Board of Directors of the Mid-Valley Chamber of Commerce, in whose area the San Fernando Valley Civic Center sits. Our chamber has a long history of trying to get the Civic Center redeveloped, and we're glad to see that it's actually going to happen. We ask for your unqualified support of this measure. There has recently been started a business improvement district just south of this area. So far, it is self-funded, but it is asking for targeted neighborhood initiative money, which we will hope you will grant it. This will be the cornerstone to the redevelopment of the entire central Van Nuys area, and as I'm sure you're aware, it badly needs it. Thank you. We hope you give this your unqualified support.
Thank you. Donald Schultz.
Council members, Don Schultz, President of Van Nuys Homeowners Association. We'd like to commend our Councilwoman Cindy Misikowski for moving this forward and Mr. Fuhrer for seconding this motion. And believe it or not, we agree with the Chamber of Commerce, and we'd like to see it move forward quickly. Thank you.
Is that a first, Don? Call the roll. Oh, no, Mr. Misikowski, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to explain a little what this is. As many people know, the Van Nuys area, in the Civic Center, we have buildings owned and operated by the city, the county, the state, and the federal government. But there is really no serious cooperation between these entities in terms of providing parking, in terms of providing landscaping, and really doing a coordinated effort on the buildings. So although the city has jump-started an initiative to do something at its city building, and the city owns the predominant number of buildings in the 25-acre complex, what this is asking for the creation of a task force of city personnel to then coordinate with the state and the county and get the advice of the federal government so that we can put together some projects together in a comprehensive, coordinated way so that everyone will benefit mutually, all the visitors coming to the various government levels. And I've had the support, and in fact, Assemblyman Bob Hertzberg's staff person, Miriam Jaffe, is here today, willing to move forward on the state level. And I talked this afternoon with Supervisor Yaroslavsky, and he too indicated that he would bring in whatever is necessary at the county level to get the cooperation so that we can get this started with our respective staffs.
Mr. Ridley Thomas.
Mr. President, members of the council, I simply want to lend support to this effort and remind the council and inform the audience of the fact that the council has, by way of policy, adopted the view that constituent service centers will help to make sure that services are delivered in a more convenient way. This is one of approximately 6 or maybe 7 such centers that will be developed citywide. Ms. Misikowski has taken up the responsibility, along with other members who represent the Valley, to make sure such a center is developed in this part of the city of Los Angeles. And it seems to me that this is something that can and should be embraced by all members, as we are earnestly attempting to make sure that we can more creatively and directly and in an accessible and a more convenient way provide the services that people throughout the city seek. So, Ms. Misikowski, I'm enthusiastically supportive of moving this forward.
Okay. Mr. Hernandez.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the council, I just also want to inform the public that the Business Improvement District, the formation of the district, was a very crucial step in coordinating these kinds of efforts. The mayor, in the proposed block grant, has submitted to Van Nuys area as the new targeted neighborhood initiative. It's the only one being submitted, being considered by the council at this time through the committee process, and we anticipate that that'll be passed. However, in speaking to Secretary Andrew Cuomo yesterday and today, as well as Undersecretary Salvador Rivers, they indicated to us that HUD might be getting additional block grant monies if the Congress approves the budget. And an important component in that is the public works component, because it would allow for infrastructure improvements in terms of streetscapes, in terms of trees, in terms of sidewalks, and long-term improvements. And that is a portion that I think business improvement districts will be ripe for applications. And the reality is we're depending on Congress approving the budget submitted by the President in regards to the Housing and Urban Development Department for those funds to become available for the City of Los Angeles.
Richard, we only have 10 here. Anyone else want to be heard on this item? Call the roll.
Alacon, Burnson, Chick, Fury, Galanter, Hernandez, Miskowski, Ridley Thomas, Walters, Ferraro.
10 ayes.
That is approved. Members, on item 13, we have cards on C and E. Did somebody call D special?
I did.
Yeah, okay. And so we'll take up C first, Leonard Shapiro. Start the time.
Mr. Ferraro, this is Leonard Shapiro again. I'm sure you'll remember me on your 2-week trip in Asia. I'm talking on item 13C. We're talking about this fact that Alacon and Alatory Motion, they want a new sewerage generation factors to be taken into consideration for various commercial customers of the city, and that the factors that were established to calculate sewer generation factors for the laundromat industry. Well, that's a great idea. I'm for it. But I'm also for the general calculation of how we calculate the sewage for the entire city, especially here in the San Fernando Valley. The formula that they have used is that the amount of water and sewage that goes down the sewage line is the basis for how much you should pay. But instead of doing that, they do not take into consideration the fact that there's most of the water in the valley is going to watering lawns and watering trees and plants. And no matter how much this is discussed, and I've heard it discussed here the past 2 years, nothing seems to be done about it. Such a situation continues, everybody feels we cannot change it. Well, it can be changed, and here's somebody showing you how it can be changed for the laundromat industry. And if it can't be changed for the laundromat industry and other industries, it certainly can't be changed for the ordinary homeowners of the San Fernando Valley, and there's a heck of a lot of them. And that's why we call to you to look into this matter and do something about it. Mr. President.
Mr. Alarcon. Mr. Alarcon.
Council members, I agree with Leonard Shapiro. I would like to explain what I didn't say which part I agreed with, but I do agree. With regard to this particular motion, all this does is refer to committee the discussion about whether to consider adjusting the sewer rates for sewage generation rates for the laundromat industry. And the reason I introduced this motion is really because of the rates, the structure that we have, the laundromat industry has really been strapped, and yet they are providing tremendous service by way of they are using the latest state-of-the-art technology to launder clothes. The bottom line is that they are good for the environment. The fact is they use large machines, less water, less detergents, less power, and to the extent that people use laundromats, they are contributing to the environment. The fact of the matter is that because they use recycled water, they are not getting charged a rate that is consistent with their with the fact that they use recycled water. And I think that we need to look at the entire industry to see if we can encourage this industry. By the way, and one of the outcomes is that they are not reinvesting in the old laundromats are not reinvesting in new technology to produce better environmental outputs. So This is really to inspire reinvestment of those existing laundromats who have older machines that could do better with better technology toward the environment and reduce the outflow into the sewage system, as well as to stimulate new opportunities for industry to establish themselves in Los Angeles because they have stopped investing in Los Angeles. So I want this to go to committee to see if we can find a more appropriate rate for this particular industry. And Leonard, if you have any other ideas about other industries that can provide those kinds of benefits, I want to hear about it.
Ms. Galanter.
Am I on here? Yeah. There obviously are a number of us who've been thinking about the same thing. Let me just tell you, because it just happened yesterday, that I've been talking with the Department of Water and Power for a while now about ways to build on the success of the low water use toilet program, because the retrofit program with toilets is saving us so much water that we are going to wind up not having to invest money we would have had to in new water supplies if we could find them. And the next major technological innovation is, in fact, in the new generation of washing machines, which use both less water and less power. But it does cost money to buy them. So we've been talking with the Department of Water and Power about creating a program, some kind of an incentive program. If we ever get through the initial struggles over downsizing, we'll be working on that program. At the same time, yesterday I had a meeting with the general manager of the Department of Water and Power and of the Bureau of Sanitation, which is the outfit that deals with the water at the other end of the pipe and the one for whom we have to collect the sewer service charge in order to upgrade the sewer system. And for the same reasons that we want to try to avoid having to invest in new sewage treatment facilities, we're looking for ways to reduce the amount of water that goes into the system. So the two departments are actually going to be working together, which I think may be a historic moment in our city's history, to try to come up with a program, with some kind of an incentive program that will help to do that. And the most promising first effort is, in fact, the commercial laundromats, because that is where you get a lot of machines at once and you can make a tremendous difference. So their water bills should go down, their sewer service charges should go down, and their electric bills should go down. And your clothes will still get clean.
Yeah, we just want to make sure the two departments don't mix their product.
Yeah, that's true. We do want to do that. And what I'd like to suggest, I don't know which committee this was going to go to, but it would be helpful, John, if we could have this at some point pass through the Commerce Committee so that we can make sure that both those departments are working on the same thing.
Public Works, but then after we'll send it to Commerce. Mr. Burnson?
Well, I don't have any problem with trying to help out the laundromats or any of the other businesses that may have some legitimate problems, but frankly, I'm more concerned about some of the homeowners because I don't know how many of you looked at your water bill recently, but my sewer service charges are running higher than my water bill this year. And that takes a little explanation, but apparently they're using last year's water figure to estimate our sewer charges. We in the valley are double penalized because we have yards and we use water that doesn't go into the sewer. We also pay a higher rate for water than the rest of the city does, for the most part, because there's a two-tier system, as unfair as it is. If you want to talk about one of the reasons of inequity for the San Fernando Valley, for some of you secessionists, there's a pretty good place to start. So we really need to look at some of these water issues. Councilman Wax and I introduced a motion 2 years ago asking for a independent audit of the sewer service charge system and the fund. Nothing's happened on that. We haven't had a report back. I'm really very, very concerned about it. So this is an area that really needs some scrutiny, and I hope that the committee, when it gets to Ms. Galanter, will take another look at the entire city, and particularly the relief that's needed for some of our San Fernando Valley residents.
Mr. Hernandez.
Mr. President, members of the council, one, I want to commend Councilman Alarcon for bringing this item up. Several commercial laundry facilities have closed down particularly at the First Councilmatic District, because of the industrial sewage rate that they have to pay. And the reality is they've come time and time again to us to prove to us that the water that goes into their plant is dirtier than the water that leaves their plant. And the reason it's dirtier is because it's coming from basically upstream. It's coming from other municipalities who don't have the same regulations that the city of Los Angeles has imposed on laundromats and aren't cleaning their water sewage as much as the city of Los Angeles is cleaning it. And so basically they're taking that water, processing it and cleaning it out at a better, higher level than it's being produced. But because we are charging them extra to do that, they've had to leave, and it's cost the city already thousands of jobs. It's a reality that I can name plants, Welch's Industrial Laundry, and so forth, uniform cleaning, and so forth. And so it's something that we should be looking at, but it's also something we should keep in mind, because the reality is it's not something we can control in terms of the regulations being imposed by other municipalities. And I'm talking about cities like Burbank and Glendale and Pasadena, who also have industrial waste and also are sending it downstream, and the city of Los Angeles happens to be between them and the ocean.
Mrs. Chick?
Yes, I just wanted to go back and address the issue of our sewer service rates. Since I was at the lead of a two-year endeavor that ended up in quite a lively debate in council, but did result in changing the way that we figure the sewer service charge. Originally, it had been an estimate, just kind of assuming that every household put about 60%, I forget which way the break went, 60 or 40, but a percentage of the total amount of water that you used a year was estimated to be water that went into the sewer system. That means inside water, because the water you use outside for watering lawns or swimming pools or a variety of outside uses, that water does not go back into our sewer system. The council voted to change to what is used by some cities in other parts of the nation, and that is looking at the rainiest months of the year and assuming that you are not doing a great deal of outside water usage, and therefore those rainy months are the best way to estimate how much of your total water usage is indoor usage going back in the sewers, and that's what we base the sewer service charge on. I have been hearing news, if anything, that quite a number of households in the San Fernando Valley are starting to see their sewer service charge go down. I'm very interested and dismayed to see so many of you nodding that that isn't the case when Mr. Bernsen was making his comments. So it is something I want to follow up on. But it certainly seemed to be a more scientifically accurate way of estimating. The very best way to do it requires us to pay a little bit of money at the front end, and for those who live in single-family homes, for about several $100s, but easily recouped in a year, you can have a separate meter installed that totally accurately measures your outside water, and then you get billed for exactly what you're using. But that is a significant amount of money to lay out to have such a thing installed. The households that have done so have been very pleased with the results and the accuracy of their bills. There is no way to measure more accurately than these kinds of estimate ways that I'm describing unless you have a separate meter. And in addition, in terms of the water rates, we did reconvene the Blue Ribbon panel on water rates about 3 or 4 years ago, and again a recommendation was brought forward to look at things such as temperature, et cetera, in figuring out rates, and those changes were made. So I think that the council is trying to come up with fair and equitable ways and to make sure that there are not geographic parts of the city that are paying unfairly. And I believe that we have made great strides towards that. If we need to keep looking at it, then that's something that certainly there are those of us who have spoken tonight who want to make sure that that happens.
All right, thank you. Anyone else want to be heard on this? If not, prepare the roll on 13C,
C.
tabulate the vote. Call the
Alacon,
roll.
Burnson, Chick, Fuhr, Galanter, Hernandez, Miskowski, Ridley Thomas, Walters, Ferraro.
10 eyes.
That is approved. 13D was called by Ms. Cindy Miskowski. We'll call on her now on 13.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to explain for the audience what this is. In 1987, the Los Angeles Unified School District established something called a primary center, which is a specialized kind of educational focus for no more than 300 children from kindergarten through second grade. It's a very education-intense, unique learning experience for kids who are just starting out. And the Unified School District has 4 centers in the city, and in June of last year, Mayor Reardon and Superintendent Ruben Zacharias put together a task force to help identify other centers where would be able to benefit from this. And that task force was looking to identify surplus city property to try to put these centers on. And again, we found a site in Van Nuys Boulevard where there is a water and power building that has been declared surplus on Van Nuys Boulevard, and this is a motion to expedite the sale of that surplus property to the Unified School District. It will be paid for out of funds that were already approved by the voters with Proposition BB, and it's specifically to do the kind of thing that I think the community and the people who voted for BB meant. So this is a motion to expedite that action so that the primary center can be up and operating by fall of this year at that DWP site on Van Nuys Boulevard.
Mr. Alacon?
Commend the maker of the motion for this particular activity. First of all, one of these primary centers is in my council district, but I think that it's important for us to recognize that as we reduce the class size in our schools, that one of the negative impacts of that is that we are literally pushing some of the primary centers off of campuses because they're using that space for elementary school classes. And so as everybody supports the concept of reducing class size, but at the same time, we can't do it at the expense of primary care. And so I very much am in support of this motion, not just because it benefits Maclay Primary Center, but because I think it's good public policy.
Anyone else want to be heard? If not, call the roll.
Alacon, Burnson, Chick, Fuhr, Galanter, Hernandez, Miskowski, Ridley Thomas, Walters, Ferraro.
10 eyes.
That is approved. The next item is 13E,
Yes.
and we have cards on that. Don Schultz, and Jeffrey Sandoval, and David Green.
Thank you, President Ferraro. Don Schultz, President of Van Nuys Homeowners Association. Again, we'd like to thank Cindy Miskowski, our councilwoman, for bringing forth a very important motion to us in Van Nuys and probably most of the central belly of the San Fernando Valley. We have been inundated with adult entertainment centers for the past probably 5 to 10 years, with a heavier concentration coming within the last 2 years because of certain flaws on First Amendment rights, interpretation by the city attorney's office, and certain losses in the courts. What Cindy is bringing forth tonight, and I know you all have a copy of the motion, is something that is sorely needed, I think, throughout the city of Los Angeles, not just the community of Van Nuys, but all throughout the city of Los Angeles. And I see you nodding, Mr. Hernandez. I know you're looking for something like this in your district. You brought something like this forward about a year or so ago in your own district. We implore you to move this quickly in the wording that you see before you, because we know it's going to be challenged by attorneys in the $1 billion adult entertainment industry in this nation. They are going to be sending lawyers that are going to be challenging this from the time it gets the next hearing at the next committee. If you could pass it tonight, it can move through the city council and become an ordinance tomorrow, I think we'd all be better off, but we know that isn't going to happen that way. So we ask you, please support this and fight for it when it comes back to you again. Thank you.
Jeffrey Sandoval.
Hello, my name is Jeffrey Saldivar. I'm president of a residents association called the Rampart Rangers from the other side of the hill. I'd like to thank the council members, in particular Councilmember Miskowski, for recognizing the need to improve the permit process regarding adult entertainment uses. The current police commission licensing process is clearly inadequate. Nevertheless, I'd like to encourage caution in the modification of 1270 in committee so that no loopholes be inadvertently be created. I last appeared before the council regarding a sexual encounter establishment called the Barracks. The Barracks is now closed and the building sits vacant, but the residents of East Hollywood and Silver Lake are concerned about 4 other similarly illegally operating clubs in the same area. Enforcement is a slow process, and the clubs are fighting 1270 every step of the way, testing it for any weakness. We had a 2-week trial in municipal court that finished up only a few weeks ago that ended up, it's a criminal trial that ended in a hung jury. So about closing this one club in particular, we don't know what's going to happen next. But please don't give those illegally operating sex clubs an opportunity to escape prosecution by inadvertently creating any weaknesses within 1270. Thank you.
David Green.
Thank you for hearing me. I thought, when I heard this brought forth, I thought it was kind of an interesting thing. I just, for the fun of it, looked up on the internet, a guy who runs a local site about that, reviews various adult clubs, and he had a site about what's required to open one of these. I just thought this would be interesting background for you guys. He suggests hiring a guy named John Weston in Beverly Hills, who's supposed to be a huge lawyer, great at getting these sites and stuff. Runs around $30K to get him. You have to deal with the zoning ordinance, which is already in effect, so you have schools, churches, residential housing, daycare, things to already look after. You have permits you have to obtain. Now, these people have already rented these facilities, or in many cases, they're leasing or bought them. They haven't even moved into them, haven't even started their business operating, and they're looking at a period from 4 months to 2 years before they can even open their doors. If they want to serve alcohol, they have to deal with constant harassment by the ABC. In short, they're looking at $300,000 to $500,000 to open a business, a lot more if they want to buy one. Now, you guys are talking about whether or not these businesses are proliferating. What they're not doing is proliferating. What you've done is created a system of survival of the fittest. The ones that are out there now have big bucks for advertising, and basically there are chains. They're owned around the country, and they're going to be very hard to stomp on. My concern, and I think something that really the council needs to address and look at, is, do we really want to be involved in the regulation of business when this is something that's more or less a consensual situation? This is adults not hurting one another going into these places. It's no big deal. And do we want the LAPD, who supposedly doesn't have enough staff as it is, to spend time in these clubs getting lap dances trying to get ladies to commit illegal acts? I mean, I think it's insane. There was a situation, I think it was just like last week, where a sex therapist and internet public access woman named Susan Block had like this sting pulled on her in her private residence. It makes no sense. It's nuts. Thanks.
Okay, the public hearing is closed. Ms. Sikowski?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. This is a motion. I wanted to thank Don Schultz, the president of the Van Nuys Homeowners Association, and Rob Gluchon, the Encino Property Owners Association, who did some work, Rob is an attorney, to look at some cases that had been brought forward and where and how the city's current laws do exactly what Mr. Saldivar was concerned about, and that is there are certain loopholes now in the law, and this is a motion attempting to close those loopholes. What we are finding is what we have defined in the code isn't as inclusive as I think what is happening out there, and particularly in the adult entertainment industry, people are coming up with things that now are not in the code and therefore are allowed to have a permit no matter where they want to go. And I think there are some serious problems with that. So this is attempting to ask the city attorney, the police department, and the planning department to work closely with reviewing the language in this proposed motion to close the loopholes that now exist and the kind of businesses that are coming in and allowed to get permits without any review and without any kind of discretionary notice to the community and participation by the community. So this is meant to close those loopholes with the new kinds of things that are springing up.
Thank you. Mr. Burnson?
Yes, I certainly support the intent of these motions. As the author of the original legislation a number of years ago, we enacted the toughest legislation that we were told would survive in court. including an amortization ordinance which required some of the existing businesses that were within the 500 feet to go out of business after a certain period of time. We were sued. I have many contacts with Mr. Weston that somebody mentioned, because we've been on opposite sides of the table a lot of times, because this is a land use issue. And we lost in the U.S. Supreme Court, and we had to settle with them and allow some of their locations to remain. I'm perfectly willing to do anything that we can support in court. I just hope we don't get any of our existing ordinances invalidated in so doing. Is Cora Smith here from the Building Code section of the city? Cora, can you come up? I know you don't want to, but I think it's important for us, because there are a couple questions that need to be addressed here. I know we're going to do this in committee and the city attorney, but can we, in your opinion, and I'm going to ask the city attorney the same question, I'm perfectly willing to extend that conditional use permit on anything beyond the 500 feet. Originally, when we did this, we adopted an ordinance that had already survived a U.S. Supreme Court test, and I believe that was the Detroit ordinance back in 1981, 82, something like that, when we passed this.
Right.
Can we, in your opinion, use the conditional use permit on anything beyond the 500 feet?
Well, currently, right now, the zoning administrator has authority under adult entertainment for massage parlors or sexual encounter establishments.
We did it with massage parlors, right.
Right, and sexual encounter establishments in the commercial industrial zones. However, they have to comply with all the conditions of 1270. So they are controlled under the conditional use right now.
The problem is that when you're talking about massage parlors and sexual encounter, you're not talking First Amendment.
That is correct.
When you talk about bookstores and you talk about movie theaters and things of that nature, then you're dealing with First Amendment.
Right, First Amendment covers your bookstores, your videos, et cetera, and they are allowed to go in your commercial industrial zones, but they do have distance requirements from your schools and parks and playgrounds and between establishments, which are 1,000 feet.
When we originally did the original ordinance, we had to identify a map of the city that literally showed locations where they could legally locate. Otherwise, we would have been shown to be in restraint of First Amendment rights and allowing them to operate. The planning department did an extensive map at that time so we could support our ordinance. But I certainly want to go forward with this, and I commend Ms. Misikowski for bringing it in. I just want to make sure that we're on sound legal ground, because Mr. Weston will be filing a lawsuit against us, I'm sure, the first time we try to enforce this, and we're going to have to be able to defend it. Maybe the city attorney wants to comment on that.
I just want to say, Mr. Brinson, that our office is going to look at the ordinance as it stands and the case law, any new cases, and explore any other ways that we can adjust this ordinance and keep it within the...
Okay. I want to thank both of you. I just want to say to the gentleman who said that it doesn't bother anybody, let me tell you about the impact that these types of businesses have upon business and residential communities. They are very much of a detrimental impact on those types of communities, and I recognize the fact that people have independent rights, but their rights do not have the right to step on the rights of other people. And that's one of the situations we're dealing here with. We have to hit a happy medium where we can enforce it, but I certainly support the concept, and I would hope that we could get back with some kind of a firm legal opinion that we can move forward with this. Thank you.
Mr. Hernandez, did you raise your hand? I didn't.
I just wanted to also explain regarding the ordinance, the caution we continue to display, because if we're found in violation of First Amendment rights, the court could dictate exactly how large the area has to be, or the reality of how much land mass has to be set aside for this kind of purpose. Our realities right now is in putting together the council plan initially, in which it's the locations and the zoning in which it is allowed, there hasn't been an overall study done as to how much land mass that abides by, and whether the courts are willing to see that as justification for us setting aside parts of the city for that purpose. And unless that study is concluded, unless funding is provided to the planning department to make that determination, we're kind of shooting in the dark. And these court exposures basically are exposing the city to the reality that the courts might dictate where they can go and not take into account the kinds of considerations that we have to take into account. So that's why we have to be very careful as to how we thread.
Mr. Ridley Thomas.
Mr. President, members of the council, I think we have to remain focused on those tools that we can employ to protect the quality of life in neighborhoods throughout the city. I interpret this motion as an effort to do that. Obviously, we do not wish to violate anyone's rights, nor are we interested in allowing activities that diminish the quality of life and generally accepted standards in communities. We shouldn't permit them to prevail. But regardless of what ordinances we promulgated, it seems to me that all of us have to be attentive to this simple admonition. There is no replacement for the vigilance of communities to protect their interests. Otherwise, things that shouldn't happen will happen. And I think you all agree that that is something that we must pay attention to. Otherwise, the deterioration of the quality of life and things that we wouldn't think would take place will crop up all around us. Eternal vigilance against such negative land uses is the only thing that I think is going to finally hold the day.
Mr. Alarcon.
I don't know how eternal we'll be, but as long as we're here, we'll be vigilant. The gentleman that made the comments about consensual, I don't remember your name, and I apologize, but I do remember it was the gentleman that didn't get any applause. That's how I remember. I think what we have to recognize, and the beauty of this particular motion, is that it recognizes not just the issues of creating a conditional use process for a particular business, but it recognizes that indeed this particular kind of business has different impacts on different communities, and you can't make decisions in a peanut butter kind of way about this kind of industry. You have to be very careful about where you do locate them if you can't stop them any other way because of constitutional issues. And so you have to locate them in areas where there aren't high concentrations of other negative factors going on in the community. But there's also, it was interesting, that I would like to add an amendment that would somehow address a problem I have in my district with a particular establishment. I think most of you know it if you've been on Sepulveda Boulevard in North Hills, but about 2 doors down, if not right next door, there's a McDonald's with a playground right in front of it. And it's right next to a major strip joint. If there was a way we could expand the 1,000-foot requirement to include businesses that attract a lot of kids, not just schools and parks. I think it would withstand constitutional scrutiny. I think that if we do it carefully, we can. Well, I don't know about family-oriented, but businesses that attract children, I think we would much improve this particular ordinance. I'm aware of the constraints we have, City Attorney. I see your panicked look, but I think we ought to push the edge to the extent that we can. We've had tremendous success in the area of reducing liquor establishments, and it's because we used the conditional use process. But we had, and Mark Ridley Thomas knows this very well. We had the benefit of a study that demonstrated that high concentrations of liquor establishments deteriorate a community. And I'm sure that if we had a compatible study out of USC or Occidental, like the studies that we use to solidify our position, that we could go further. And so I think this is something where we do need to push the edge, even though it may be subject to constitutional challenge.
Cindy? Mr. Kowski?
As the maker of the motion, I'm very happy to consider the amendment that Mr. Alarcon suggested be included to add businesses that are predominantly children attraction or children attractive to this consideration right now by the city attorney. I did want to clarify for Mr. Burnson that this was drafted to avoid the issue of the free speech material, whether video, printed material or the like, and is much more akin to the issues that we now control, such as massage parlors and that those kind of businesses that are now defined. The problem is that people in this industry are finding ways to create some businesses that really deal with activities there that are very much akin to massage parlors or the like, but don't specifically fall within that definition. So this is broadening our definition to deal with those kinds of activity-related uses and deal with them the same way that we do with these others that were defined in the code already. So I think we will work very carefully with the city attorney, with the advice of the police department, who has brought this to our attention and has been attempting with the communities to be vigilant with some of these uses, but because they are now not specifically defined in the code, we need to make those changes.
Okay, anyone else want to be heard on this? If not,
13E as amended by Councilman Alarcon.
Call the roll.
Alarcon, Burnson, Chick, Fuhrer, Galanter, Hernandez, Miskowski, Ridley Thomas, Walters, Ferraro.
10 ayes.
Aye. That is approved. The next item.
Motions for posting and referral.
If there's no objections, unanimous vote.
Councilmember Chick has requested to be excused city business to leave at 11:30 a.m. March 18th, meets council policy.
Unanimous vote.
The desk is clear, Mr. President.
Okay.
If I could...
Ms. Stokowski?
I forgot to mention earlier that I would also like to thank those in the audience who came from the Valley offices of a lot of city agencies and city bureaus. We have here today, and I think talking to the citizens earlier, people from the Public Works Department, Bureau of Engineering, Bureau of Street Use. Obviously, we've had the captains from West Valley and Van Nuys here with us tonight, the fire chiefs and the battalion chiefs serving the greater Valley area, and particularly Van Nuys and Encino. And I would like to thank all the city staff who is here and those who are willing to stay and perhaps talk afterwards. And in particular, I would like to point out that we have Mr. Bob Kennedy here from the Street Tree Division. And this community in particular, just a few blocks from here, members of the council, suffered a loss of a cultural treasure about a week and a half ago when the Lang Oak, the 1,000-year oak tree that we built a street around to save, was lost in an El Nino storm about a week and a half ago. And Mr. Bob Kennedy from Street Tree will be meeting tomorrow with my office. We are going to reconstitute the Oak Tree Advisory Committee, the Citizens Advisory Committee, to decide and take input from citizens as to what we should do with the site, look at replanting some trees. We've also already had oak trees offered. And in addition to that, we want to determine what is the best use of the existing tree and the tree trunk, which is being salvaged. It's being taken under protective care. And I'm looking forward to a lot of suggestions from the citizens as to what we should do with that treasure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Stokowski. Anything else on the agenda?
Any adjourning motions?
I'll put you on that committee. Are there any adjourning motions? I have one, but we can do it later. Okay, I want to thank all of you for coming tonight, and this meeting is not as long as it normally is because Nate Holden was not here. If Nate Holden had been here... But I do want to thank you all for coming, and I hope you enjoyed the experience with city government. This meeting is adjourned.